Well, I have always had the slight interest in IT. I didn't really have much knowledge in it besides the basic stuff that you learn every day. So, like how to use the internet, how to be able to use do homework assignments and things through Microsoft Word and stuff like that, being able to watch movies online and things like that. So, I didn't really have too much of a background besides the stuff that you just pick up just as you're moving through your everyday life. Um, my interest in IT didn't really start until I got to college, where I had to utilize more of it, or I learned more of what I was doing as I was moving through all of my different courses and things like that. But I didn't really do too much with it or anything at all. I went the teaching route instead. I was focusing on getting my teaching degree and focusing on learning how to teach English and things like that. So I really thought I was going to be out in the field teaching in high schools and teaching in middle schools and things like that. But I got to student teaching and I figured out that that was not the best thing for me. So after that, I graduated college. I got my teaching degree, but I did not take a teaching job or try to get in the field. I attempted in some other spots, and still it wasn't working out. So I finally gave up on that. But after that, I went from job to job. I was a lifeguard for a good little minute. I worked in retail. I worked in bookstores, things along the nature. I was babysitting for a good second, and none of that, just odd jobs here and there that I was picking up. It wasn't until I got in contact with a family friend who spoke to both my brother and I about NPower. And we both decided to give it a try. So we are both class three alumni here in the St. Louis region. So shout out class three. Um, so we went through the program, and as we were going through and learning all of this stuff and being taught and talking through all the different IT concepts and things like that, that interest that I had in college just kind of grew at an exponential rate, honestly, because we go through a lot of information very quickly, but it was very motivating to be able to get to all of that information, to be able to be in a space where we're all talking about the same thing. We're all trying to go in the same direction. We're all learning the same material at the same time. Um, and I've always had that thirst for knowledge, for curiosity, that I just want to learn something. If you're willing to teach me about it, if you want to talk to me about it, I'm going to grab everything that I can. So NPower was an amazing experience to be able to get all of that, especially from my teaching mentor, who was the previous instructor who taught me, Brett, who just gave as much as I wanted, as much as I asked him. He would give me as much information that he could, and I appreciate that so much to this day. So NPower is really where I got started with that interest. And after we graduated, they asked me to come back and become an instructor, which I was like, oh, cool. Even though, I was still new to it, I didn't really have, again, that background wasn't something that I had already. So them asking me to come back and teach everything that I just learned, I was like, well, I'm just gonna do what Brett told me, and I'm just gonna, like, just go back over the stuff that I learned and hope that that if it makes more sense to me, I can make it make sense to make somebody else, right? So after that, I started to get more comfortable with the material. I started to learn stuff. I didn't have to Google stuff as much as I did the first time, or refer back to my notes. Now it's just kind of ingrained in my head, and I know, and I better understand a lot of the stuff that we started off learning back when I was a student. And also, since we've gone virtual with the pandemic and things like that, I've also been introduced to a wider network for the rest of the National Instructor Institute. So before we used to have meetings and things, once or twice a month, and I knew some people's names. We had never actually met because they're all over the country and things like that. But since we've gone virtual, we have regular meetings. I get to see people's faces. I can put all of their faces to their names and things like that. And so it's just a nice environment for us to be able to share information. If somebody is, well versed in coding, and you say you have an interest in learning it, there's, oh, well, here's some links that I went through. Here's some textbooks. If you ever want to meet, we can talk about it, chat about it. So I really appreciate that we have such an open environment, so that even though I'm not a student anymore, technically, I'm still able to quench that thirst for knowledge, and gain new information, and be able to further my IT interests with other people who are, again, like-minded, which is what NPower is so good at cultivating, like a real good environment for you to be able to meet other people and talk about things like that. So that is where I am at right now, and I'm hoping that the information that I'm getting right now and all the interest that I'm having will spring me forward at some point in time. We are still conducting our classes. We're still going through our lectures and walking through our labs. So most of the day is taken with that. Other open hours, we like to extend our open time for study sessions. So if students have questions, have issues, or if they just want to be able to come in and talk individually about their career goals or something in the class that's bothering them, something that's preventing them from being able to get the information right. I personally like to use this time to figure out, okay, what study methods will work best for you? What can we do to help make it make more sense while we're going through all of these concepts, especially for those who are completely new to the technology, all of the information, period. Mostly that, making sure I'm keeping in constant communication with like my other staff members in the region and, across the nation. So talking to other National Instructor Institute members to see, hey, how did you guys teach this? What tips and tricks could you give me to try to make it better for my own trainees? Making sure that I'm keeping in communication with my SSMs to make sure, okay, if a student is going through something, like whatever information you can tell me, you feel comfortable, telling me that would help me make it better for them while we're in class and things like that. I also spend a lot of my free time creating review games and stuff that I think helps me make more sense if we have something that's fun, that's interactive, and make people work in groups that we can do stuff together instead of just sitting here and I ask you questions for the next 45 minutes. There's got to be something different to make it interesting. And I think that helps retain the information better if you're not just bored out of your mind. A couple of people. Just one that's closer to home is my dad. He is also in IT. He's half of the reason that I have like a slightly higher than average baseline that I learn stuff every day. I kind of picked some stuff up for him. I never asked him to, teach me everything he knew about all of his Photoshop and all the different software and stuff that he uses on a regular basis. Now a lot of the stuff that he does I understand already, so he gets to talking about stuff. I'm like, I know how to do that, this is what you're talking about. He's like, oh, so now we can have conversations about it. But back way back, he was really the catalyst for all of this, just by him living his life in my visit, like here in my area. Someone else who inspires me, less of a technical standpoint and more just of like a personal standpoint, I am really inspired by Michelle Obama. She makes me and a lot of other people feel like we could do whatever it is that you want to do. Like I just push you forward, and seeing her going out and living out her dreams and being amazing and pretty much everything that she does just makes me want to strive to be better in whatever it is that I'm trying to do, even if it's not just specifically IT or specifically in my career, just relationship wise, personally wise. And she just does it for me, and I appreciate that. From the perspective of some of my previous trainees that have gone through the program, graduated, and gone out and gotten their own jobs and things like that, some things that I've heard is that a lot of them were uh, not ostracized, but set aside from others because IT it's a man's world. It's not a place for women, quote unquote, right? So a lot of them felt that they were being looked over for specific opportunities, or sometimes in a sense ignored strictly because they were a woman in this space, and some of their coworkers or some of their supervisors didn't feel that they were qualified to handle certain things. And no, there isn't really anything you could do about their perspective of you initially. The best thing that I think that we as women can do for one another is to one, bolster our confidence, because you know what you're capable of, and you know that you are always capable of doing better. There's always something else that you could be learning, something else that you could do to better yourself in whatever field or whatever it is that you're doing. So being a source of confidence and being a confidence booster for one another, and encouraging one another to do something greater, do something that you put your mind to, do something different, right? Because different isn't always bad. Different is always something that no one else has done before. That would be one of the main things we could do to help one another in that type of environment. Since I've become an instructor, I have been a cause of surprise to a lot of our trainees. When they come into the training space, I'm not sure what they're expecting, but I don't think they're expecting me. So, and it makes me happy that they're really amenable to being taught by a woman of color who didn't have a background in all of this. And they're cool with that. And I think a lot of our female trainees really resonate and really relate to me when they come in and they see, oh, she came in here, she did the same thing, and look where she's at now. So I think representation in any form, anywhere, is ridiculously powerful because it always makes it easier for you to attain your dream, follow your dream, do what you need to do to meet that particular goal. If you see somebody who's either already been there or is also on their way to reaching that goal, it just makes it seem a lot more attainable and gives you more motivation, makes you more determined to push through and do the things that you need to do to get there. It does seem like it's a man's world out there. And that's only because we are just now emerging with an insurgence of women who have decided that we're going to take this thing over, pretty much. So it may seem difficult. It may seem like it's not your place, quote unquote, but there's always a place for you if you make one. If this is something that you want to do, none of that is going to be able to stop you because you are unstoppable already. If this is your dream, you're already making moves to get there. But if this is something incredibly new that you want to start your journey on, a first step that I would suggest is do some research. At least get yourself exposed to some of the stuff that you might see. So NPower, I think, is an amazing program. You can come to this program or find a program similar that introduce you to like the basic stuff. You don't want to jump head first into Network Plus and just be completely confused. You want to go in and learn the basics, learn the concepts, learn the fundamentals, and then after that you can build on top of the stuff that you learn. But you always have to start somewhere. So the first step would be to find something basic, even if it's just something that you've been doing your whole life, and you want to know, hey, is there an actual term for what I'm doing? What else could I be doing? Is there any extra steps that I could be doing to do this better? Anything in the field that you could do some research on to get more insight and more knowledge on would be a great first step to get into this field. As a technical instructor, I've come across a lot of trainees. Most of them have been female trainees that came across this particular issue of lack of confidence or lack of high self-esteem or motivation, something along those lines. All right. And as we've moved through the program, they have gone leaps and bounds above where they started. And I'm not sure if it's something specifically that I've done or if something it's the combined efforts of all of our staff here that are really just pushing them through and bolstering their confidence and things like that. But the results are astounding and amazing. One such trainee that we just had in our previous cohort before this one, she used to have a lot of issues during class, and we would do group projects and things like that. More of a social anxiety thing where, oh, I don't know as much information as they do, and I don't ever want to say anything out loud because if I say something, they'll think I'm stupid or want to keep me out the group or not want to listen to anything that I'm saying. And so she kind of held to the background until it just got so bad that she needed to speak to someone about it. So we had a few conversations. We talked through some tips and tricks that we could do. I gave her some other things to do to try to get her mind off of, that feeling dumb thing. Like, okay, if you feel dumb, I'm going to give you some stuff to go research, go look this up, and then come back and we'll talk about it. And you tell me how you feel about that. And we walk through some other steps. I really encouraged her to go talk to her SSM coach a lot more since they can get a lot more in depth. And over the course of the period, she has since graduated. She passed her certification exam, which is something that one of the biggest barriers she was having that she thought would just never work for her. We got there, we went through study sessions. She was focusing really hard on getting all of her information together. She passed her certification exam. She has gotten a job and she is killing it out here in the field. And I am so proud of her. It makes no sense. So that is one of the main ones that comes to mind when you talk about the transformation. During the pandemic, going virtual has given me a lot more time at home, obviously, and it's also given me a time to do a lot self-reflection. Like, what do I want to be doing? What do I want to get out of life? Existential things like that. So music has always been a part of my life. Always been. It started with my parents, led down to me and my brother. And singing is something that I really enjoy. So over the course of this year, we've been sequestering at home with the pandemic and things like that. I've had a lot more time to network and find other people who share the same hobbies. And I've joined some groups and started some other projects. This is just a good time to get that hobby and push it forward, because it was just kind of stale for a minute. But the pandemic has for whatever reason sharpened my focus on that and made me move that in a forward direction. So I appreciate that. A quote that I hear a lot and that really resonates with me is by Gandhi. And it says, "You need to be the change that you want to see in the world." And you hear that a lot in a lot of inspirational quotes. It really does fit the occasion. If you want to see some change, if you want to see something in particular out there in the world, it's not just going to pop up overnight. It's not just going to pop up just because you think about it. I think it really speaks to how proactive we need to be if you want something to happen. If there are going to be changes, usually you're going to have to do it yourself, because nobody else is thinking the same way that you are. And if this is really something that you're passionate about, you need to put that effort in. It motivates me to get up in the day. My first and probably obvious answer is my family. So having this job has given us an amount of security that I really appreciate. Maybe we're not able to do all the things we were before, but we're still able to survive. We're living. We're here in this moment, and we're doing okay. Also, another thing is the impact that I think this job has when I come in the morning. A lot of my students like to email and say, "Hey, thank you for answering this question. Thank you for getting back to me with this email so quick, and we really appreciate you." This makes you feel good. That my job is impacting them in some way and in a positive force that's helping make everything at least a little bit easier for them. It could be more difficult, but at least something I'm doing is helping them along in the right direction. All right, number one, don't settle. There's a lot of things out there that seem unattainable, and you kind of go with whatever's closest or whatever seems easiest to do. It's not fulfilling in the slightest. So settling is never the answer. That is never something we want to do. Um, Speak your mind. If there is something that you want, don't be afraid to say it. Don't be afraid to go for it. If you're having issues and there's something that you need to say, don't hold that back. That's probably a big one of mine that I'm finally just not getting over. And number three, we're gonna go with your gut. If there is something in you telling you to do something, usually it's there for a reason. It's not just pop it up in your head as something on a whim, especially if you get that feeling more than once. It's usually something that you need to be doing. Even if it's scary, just kind of go for it. My most used app is definitely Twitter. I am definitely a tweeter. But I use it mostly for keeping up with things that are happening all over the world, things that are happening, locally in my area and things like that. So Twitter is a good way of keeping track of, keeping updated on whatever's going on around me. And I use it for personal reasons, just because Twitter is a fun place to be. It's very, very entertaining. Media intake is definitely through social media. So I follow a lot of actors and actresses and some politicians and other influencers and things like that on Instagram and Twitter. Some of my main ones that when I see her post, it just makes me really happy. I'm gonna bring it back to Michelle Obama, because every time she posts something, it just makes me crazy happy. But also Serena Williams, very, very very inspiring, especially with the videos and documentaries and things that she's done that just tell you her entire journey and where she started and how motivated she is and how she works hard every single day to make sure that she's doing the best that she can do. And listening to all of that and watching her move forward, and her daughter is like ridiculously adorable. I love seeing them together. Seeing her on Instagram, but a lot of her other social media platforms just makes me really happy, and it makes me want to go out and do something. So she's very inspiring. I don't know if she's doing it on purpose, but she is. There you go.